let me tell you why I think you should lean in for the next like 30 or so minutes. I got a laptop early on when we planted City Light. New, I was stoked about it, got it all set up, and then a girl was running slides in the back. Bless her heart, what a gift for her to serve. But while she was there, she accidentally spilled a cup of water onto my laptop. So that brand new laptop got water damaged, and we. By God's grace, it still worked. So we're like, yes, this is amazing. But the only catch was it needed to be connected to power. So like literally, the moment you disconnect the charger, it dies. And so, it's not terrible. It's not the end of the world. But like if I was going to a coffee shop, I need to make sure I'm like by the wall, by a charger, plug in everything. Or if I'm like at my house, want to work on my laptop on the couch, I'm literally grabbing an extension cord, plugging it in, walking over here, sit on my couch and do it, So that was the deal. And if modern day technology and the advancement with new phones or tablets or laptops, what are they all emphasizing in the advancement? Longer battery life, right? That's what matters. They're making sure that you can survive and last longer, detached from the charger, and you can go do your own thing and you come back. And I think that we have made the Christian life kind of this space where it's like, I want to improve on my battery life or something like that. Like I want to be able to last longer, detached from whatever. I can go do my thing and I can come back and get filled up. And it's like, no. Listen, friends, you and I are that water damaged laptop. Like we can't survive detached from the vine. Like we need this close, intimate connection with Jesus. And so I want to elaborate on that, expand, see what God's word has to say about this intimate connection we have with Jesus and everything that he provides because of that. Sound good? So we're going. So look at verse 1 with me. Verse 1, this is the last I am statement of Jesus. Number 7, this is verse 1. He says, I am the true vine. I'm the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. So I want to spend some time looking at Jesus as the true vine. Last week, now the 8 didn't do a good job with this, which made me like deeply insecure as a pastor teacher. But I was saying last week, it's always good to start with the question when you're looking at the Bible. Again, this is 2,000 years removed, so we have to ask the question: what did this mean to them then? Okay. I'm insecure again. We're not going to swing it for the 11. I tried the 11. We're just going to go. What did this mean to them then? So I want you to anchor that in. So if I ever ask that again, you guys would know. When you're looking at a text 2,000 years later in an American culture, far removed from how it would have landed then, you're asking the question, what did this mean to them then? How would it have hit them? And so when we hear this word like the vine, in our context, we're probably thinking about the grapes we get that are nice, the whole clump of it in the store, and that's a branch attached to a vine, and you've got all the grapes on it. But to the disciples, when they heard Jesus say, I'm the true vine, vine would have brought a very different connection to their minds. And so in the Old Testament, when it speaks of a vine, it's speaking about Israel, God's chosen people. So he refers to the nation of Israel, his people, as his vine. And in Isaiah chapter 5, God says that his vine had everything it needed to flourish, all the resources. In verse 4, chapter Isaiah 5, he says, what more was there for me to do for my vineyard that I have not done for it? But God's chosen people didn't choose God. They chose sin. And it says they produced wild grapes. Basically, their fruit of this vine, God says, is literally worthless. And in verse 7 of Isaiah 5, he says he looked for justice. This is the fruit. He looked for justice, but behold bloodshed. For righteousness, but behold an outcry. So instead of justice, they oppressed. Instead of pursuing righteousness, they produced unrighteousness. So the vine that God cared for and created rebelled. Israel had been a false vine. So notice that in verse 1, when Jesus says, Jesus doesn't just say, I'm the vine. He says what? I'm the true vine. I'm the true vine. And he's contrasting himself. He's comparing himself, going, hey, Israel was the false vine, and I am the true vine. He's comparing himself. He's telling these men that they don't no longer need to hope in the old, broken, fruitless vine of Israel. They can trust in him. And think about the differences between these two vines. The old vine was disobedient. Jesus was perfectly obedient. The old vine produced bloodshed. Jesus had his blood shed for guilty people. The old vine oppressed people. Jesus spent his life helping people and serving people. We get life from the true vine, Jesus, and the old vine only produced death. And so Jesus is saying, listen, you want to be connected to me. Like, I'm the vine you've actually been waiting for. I'm the true and a better and eternal vine. And so for us today, it's probably not that compelling and exciting to think about Israel as a false vine in comparison to Jesus as a true vine. None of you guys are like, oh, dang it. I was so connected to the false vine. Oh, I loved, like we're probably not like compelled by that in the same sense. But the root of what he's saying is just as important for us today. It begs the question, if they were connected to the false vine and that wasn't okay, and Jesus is the true vine, the question is, what are you connected to? What's your false vine? The Jews of that day, their vine was the law. It was rules. It was the old covenant, but it was a false vine producing bad fruit. It made promises that it couldn't keep. And so they needed the true vine. So can I ask you, are you connected to a false vine? What are you trying to draw life from? What are you attempting to squeeze joy out of? What are you working to find your identity in? What are you hoping to fulfill you? What are you pursuing to produce peace? What are you seeking out to help you conquer fear and find courage and eliminate worry? There are a million different vines we could connect to for all those things, right? So maybe, just some options, you're trying to connect to a vine of a lifelong partner. Maybe you're single and you're like, oh, I just love to find a significant other, a spouse, something like that. Maybe you're dating and you're like, but when are they going to put the ring on it? When are we going to make this thing official? And you're going, then I won't feel lonely anymore. Then I'll know I'm loved. Then I'll know I'm chosen. Maybe you're trying to connect to the false vine of children. My kids are one of the greatest joys of my life, They're awesome, but they're a bad vine. And so it's like maybe you're looking to kids, either your kids you currently have or kids you could have, and going, oh, they'll give me purpose in my life. They'll give me meaning. They'll give joy to my sadness. They'll fill the void I feel. Maybe you're trying to connect to the vine of money. Thinking, once I get that salary, that number, whatever it is, I'll finally have security. I'll know I'm stable and I'm good. Maybe it's once I get to that space, I can afford vacations. And once I can afford a vacation, then I'm going to have rest finally that I want so bad. Maybe you're trying to connect to a vine of self-help. It's a $13 billion industry every year. Maybe if I read the right book, I'll get my life together. If I find the right personal trainer or to be disciplined with that diet or start working out, I'll feel better about my body. Or if I find the right life coach, I'll conquer my bad habits. There are a million vines we could connect to. And Jesus is saying, they're all false. I'm the one true vine. The one true vine is Jesus. So there's only one source for everything your heart actually desires: to be known, to be loved, to be chosen, to be valued, to be free, to have joy and meaning and hope and get rest. And it's all in the one true vine, Jesus. But here's what I want you to think about for a second. I want you to think about how hard we pursue those false vines. Like, just being completely candid. How much energy and effort we exert to try to attach to false vines, thinking they'll give us something different that Jesus can't. So you could just simply look at your credit card statement, your bank statement, and you could just go through literally after church today and just go, is there any false vine? Is there anything I'm trying to give my money to, spend on, whatever, that I'm hoping that will give me something that only Jesus can, right? You could look at your screen time and on this last week or whatever and go, hey, what am I looking at? Who am I following? What am I learning from? You could look at the hours you work and maybe above and beyond what's normative or standard. And you can see how much time you spend away from your family or friends or how stressed you are continually. You can look back to what you lay in bed thinking about and dreaming about and pondering on and hoping for, the podcasts you listen to, the books you read, the subscriptions you have, the people you follow, the places you live, the shows you watch. It's undeniable how much effort we put into connecting to these other vines that we think will give us what we want, what we need. But I want you to see something incredible in these verses, something unbelievably mind-blowing and paradigm-shattering. While we spend our time and our money and our dreams and our thoughts on connection to false vines that won't give us what we need, Jesus is the true vine, is coming to us. He's working toward us. He's connecting to us. He's making his way to us. So it's one of the last verses. All of the verses kind of show us this. But in verse 16, it has this on display. He says, John 15, verse 16, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you." So Jesus makes it clear. He's talking a lot about bearing fruit in this passage, in these verses, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I want to make sure we've got the right timeline of events here. Nowhere in these verses does it explain the idea that you started to bear fruit. You started to get impressive. You started to improve morally, and God went, oh, wow, I want you. You got his attention. I need you attached. I want that fruit in my vine, so come on, come over here. No, that's the opposite of the gospel. He said, you didn't choose me, I chose you. You didn't work your way towards me, I worked my way towards you. You didn't find me, I found you. It's all about this reality of and you're thinking in comparison going, we're spending so much time running after false vines. What can they give me? Our money, our energy. And then in a great turn of events, the one true vine makes his way to us. It's so contrary to everything else that we do. We're spending our time and he's going, hey, I'll spend everything on you. I gave it all for you, considering all the investment we've given to the false vines. The pursuit, the money, the time, the energy to finally be happy, to finally get purpose. In a great turn of events, the true vine spends everything on us. It's almost like we're over here pouring sweat and we're digging and we're dehydrated and we're worn out and we're just relentlessly digging deeper and deeper and deeper, convinced that there's water down there somewhere, right? This is the idea. This is the picture of our modern lives in this toil and in this vanity. My boy Chuck. Finley family's right here. This is Chuck. Fam's right there. You dropped him off for parking or something? Yep. He can adjust your back, but he's having trouble finding a seat. So listen. Reunited. So listen. I want you to picture our lives that we are pouring sweat, we are digging deeper and deeper, we're dehydrated and we're worn out, and we're convinced that somewhere down there, as we dig and as we toil, that we're going to find water. And Jesus was watching us, and he's sitting in a lawn chair with a hose that's pouring out Gatorade or LaCroix or Diet Coke or whatever you drink, and he's going, you're not going to find what you're looking for there. But I've got what you need, and I can give you it, right? Revelation 21:17 says, let the one who is thirsty come. Let the one who desires take the water of life without price. It's totally free. So just hear me. To be connected to this true vine Jesus, there's no monthly subscription you got to pay. There's no moral standard you have to keep. There's no application you have to fill out or test you have to take. There's no interview you need to pass. It's just come as you are. Broke from all that journey and broke in, or broke it, all that. And he's going, just come as you are, just trust in Jesus. Now, this passage talks a lot about abiding in Jesus, and it feels like that's what we use that word a lot, or in Christian circles, abiding in Jesus, and I'm going to read my word or whatever. And it could be easy to read this and go, oh, that's what the passage is about. It's an instruction manual on teaching us how to abide with Jesus, how to read the word, how to obey, how to love, how to whatever. And I'm going, if you actually, and I preached this same text years ago when we first studied John, when we first planted. It's a completely different sermon. But this right here was probably the most profound thing to me this week, is I thought that was different. But so it's like we can make this about us abiding in Jesus, but I don't think that's the point. So if you look at verse 4, he says, John 15, verse 4, he says, abide in me. That's the imperative, right? And we go, oh, yeah, abide in Jesus. Okay, yep, now let's learn how to abide in Jesus. And he's like, no. Look at the next words. And I in you. Abide in me, and I in you. So he's saying there's this mutual sense of abiding, and I just feel like I've missed it. To be like, wow, it says that Jesus is abiding in us, not just us abiding in him. So don't reduce these down to a little instruction manual on how to abide in Jesus. It's so much more than that. This is a definitive promise that Jesus is abiding in you, that he's attached himself to you, that more important than you abiding in him is that he's abiding in you. You're attached to him. He's remaining in you even when you try to leave him. He's making it his home in you even when you try to run away. He's choosing you even when you're not choosing him. He's faithful when you're faithless. Jesus is the true vine. And so the false vine Israel couldn't please God. They were wicked. And every other vine that we try to connect to give us what we think we want, it can't. Jesus is the true vine, and he explains that if you're connected to him, one inevitable, miraculous, gracious thing happens. You will bear fruit. Over and over and over again. You're connected to the vine, the true vine, he's abiding in you, you're in him. you're going to bear fruit. So I want to explain what that fruit is and how the fruit comes about, right? Because there's a ton of confusion around that. So what's the fruit, how it comes about? Let's start with what it is. It mentions the word fruit 8 times in these verses, 8 different times, over and over. Jesus guarantees if you're connected to him, you're going to bear fruit. And so for some reason, I don't know if you're the same, but I've kind of been like, well, what is this fruit? And I've naturally always thought it was like outward stuff, like observable fruit, like an impact, Christian progress and productivity, right? The people I've led to Christ, the people I've matured in Christ, could be the people that we help, the money we've given, the events we've attended, all that stuff, the trips we've been on. So this fruit is something tangible or measurable. But if you're familiar with your Bible, let me ask you a question. Is God ever primarily concerned with outward actions? No. I literally can't think of a time. No, God's heart is always about our heart. And this fruit is the same. It's about the heart. And so I'll give you 5 just quick examples biblically. Let the Bible interpret the Bible. So Isaiah 5:7, it's the verse about God saying, I want this fruit, but you have worthless fruit. What's the fruit that he was looking for? Justice and righteousness. Now, I know those things could be played outwardly, but they're internal qualities. I want a person of justice. I want people of righteousness, but they weren't, so their fruit was worthless. 1 Samuel 16:7, it's talking about David when he's a shepherd boy going to be king, and he says, man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. So we're so concerned about the way we look and what people perceive us to, and God's going, I see right through all that facade, and I see your heart. 1 Corinthians 13:1-3, he says, if I speak in tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm a noisy gong and a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understand all the mysteries and knowledge, and if I have all the faith as to remove mountains, but I have not love, I'm nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. It's his whole list of external fruit, all this good stuff, but without the inward fruit, which is love. And he goes, it's all worthless. So it's about, don't think the fruit's out there, it's in here. Galatians 5:22-23 talks about the fruit of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is church planting, evangelism, service. No, it's joy and love and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. None of those are about doing, they're about being. And then Romans 8, we spent 10 weeks on this chapter. It's so glorious in all of God's foreknowledge and his predestining, his choosing and all this stuff. And it culminates into Romans 8:29. And he says, for those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to what? To be conformed to the image of his son. All of God's effort leads to us becoming more like Jesus. So catch this, a definition for what this fruit is. The fruit he's promising that will be present in our lives is the character of Christ. That's what it is. And it's not fancy, it's not special, but it's a conformity to Christ that comes from being connected to him. That's what the fruit is. Who we are being altered because we're attached to the vine. That's what it is. That's what all this is about. And so I mentioned earlier that the self-help business is a $13 billion business, okay? It's booming. Everybody objectively wants to be a better version of ourselves, right? We all do. We want to kick those bad habits. We want to, be more effective. We want to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier and be healthier and all that. We all want to be better. And Jesus is saying, you cannot become better without me. You can't. You can't change for the better without me. You may be able to get better at following rules or a diet or a budget, but if you want to love deeply, if you want inexpressible joy, if you want unexplainable peace, if you want resilient patience and genuine kindness, that all comes from being connected to me. That's what he's saying. I'm the true vine and all that comes through that, because Jesus is saying that's who I am, all those things. So look at John 15, verse 8. John 15, verse 8, Jesus is reiterating this. He says, by this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit and so prove to be my disciples. You would bear much fruit and prove to be my disciples. So Jesus is saying, if you're really connected to me, if my life is flowing through you like a vine would flow through a branch, you'll start to look more like me. Inward change, inevitable conformity. He literally says, you're proving to be my disciples. And so there's this verse in Acts chapter 4, verse 13. It's one of my favorites. And the disciples are out, I think it's Peter and John, and all this stuff's happening. It says, when they saw their boldness, they knew that they were common, uneducated men, but they had been with Jesus. They were like, these guys are uneducated, very common. The word, yeah, anyways. And it says, oh, but they noticed they had been with Jesus. How'd they notice that? Because they had qualities of him. They were like, and they go, oh, those people. But think about the friendships we have. We start to say the same things as our friends. We start to do the same things, all that. And he's going, why would you think it's any different with Jesus? Like this is who he is. So he said, if you're being around him, you're going to start to become like him. That's the reality. And I want to make sure that we don't get this twisted, okay? Because I think you could read this and get this messed up with the gospel. He doesn't say that fruit is payment. He says it's proof, okay? He says, so you're not doing that. He says it's evidence, not earning. Or to put it another way, fruit is a result of being connected to Jesus, not a requirement to get connected to Jesus. You get what I'm saying? So this isn't like a, hey man, bear fruit, and God's like, okay, come on in. We talked about that. It's come on in, broken, fruitless, and I'll bear fruit through your life. It's proof. It's evidence that you're attached to him. And so I just have to ask you, like I'd be remiss to not ask, as you look back on your life, and since you follow Jesus, has he been changing you? Do you look anything more like him? And that may spark some concern around the room. That might spark some worry. You may be sitting here thinking, I don't even know if I can put my finger on any type of fruit in my life that feels like I've become more like him. Or maybe you're thinking, oh, I got to get a list. Tell me all the things I need to do to become like Jesus. And he's like, no, hold on, wait. He makes it unavoidably clear how this fruit comes about. And there's really three ways. We've already talked about one of them. The first way to bear fruit is by being connected to Jesus, right? That he brought us in. 1 Corinthians 11 says we were grafted in, attached to that vine. So that's the first way. In verse 5, that's why Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. So just to be clear, you don't go, oh, I want to bear fruit, and then it just happens. Like, it doesn't work that way. He brought you in, grafted you in, and you bear fruit because you're connected to him. That's the first way. The second way is the Father's pruning, and we're going to spend time on the second and third one. So number one, this would be number two, the Father's pruning. So look at verse 1 again. We talked about the true vine. Jesus says, hey, I'm going to identify myself. I'm the true vine. And he says, and my Father is the vine dresser. My Father's the vine dresser. Now in verse 1, Jesus says the Father's the vine dresser. And in a vineyard, just so we're clear, the vine dresser is in charge of caring for the vines, of attending to them. So he prunes the branches so they'll produce more fruit. And I want you to remember that what's the fruit? Becoming more like Jesus. Okay, so conforming to his character. And we're all like, yes, I want to be more like Jesus. Absolutely, I want to be more like him. What book do I read? I'll read whatever. I love reading. What conference do I go to? What podcast do I listen to? What city group should I attend? Whatever it is. And God's like, you want to be more like Jesus? You're like, yeah, give me a list. And he goes, get pruned. We're like, okay. Wait, is there a book about pruning? And he's like, no, it's just, it's like, and it's this thing we're going, hey, you want to become more like Jesus? You got to get pruned. There's things that got to get cut away. It's not just read a book or listen to a podcast or go to a group or come to church. It's like the Father does some pruning work on us. And so I did some research to figure out what this pruning was like. And I found out that the vine dresser prunes the branches in two ways. He cuts away dead wood that could produce disease or whatever, or have insects come in, or he cuts away living tissue, whole clumps of it, so that life of the vine won't be impeded from growing better. So the vine dresser will even cut away whole branches of grapes so that the rest of the crop will be of higher quality. It's a crucial process, and it involves a lot of cutting, okay? So think of those two connected. And so I want to make this point extremely clear. Pruning isn't punishment. Like, you've got to understand this. Pruning isn't punishment. So look at verse 2, because he explains what this pruning is like. He says, every branch in me that doesn't bear fruit, he takes away. And catch this, every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. So the branches that are doing well, those that are starting to look like Jesus, they get the scissors. You tracking with me? It's not the other way around. So if you look at your life and you feel like you're just in a pruning season, like literally things are just getting taken away from you, you're going, what's happening? I just want you to definitively know, if you've trusted in Jesus, that's not God punishing you. Christians don't get punished by God. Why? Because Jesus took all the punishment for us on the cross. So there's no more wrath to be poured out for any of your sin. He did it completely fine. That's why he says it's finished. So Christians don't get punished by God. There's no moment where he flies off the handle in anger and goes, there's no sin in your life that you'll ever commit that wasn't paid for by Jesus. So there's no punishment. Hebrews 12 says there is discipline, but discipline's different than punishment. Discipline's a gift. It's waking our sleepy hearts up. It's rerouting our lives away from disobedience into a real deep relationship with Jesus. It's kind of like, it's like a holy spanking. Like, God, what are you doing? Like, wake up, you know? Like, that's discipline. That's Hebrews 12. But that's not punishment. It's not out of wrath. It's out of love. He does it on purpose. But I want you to know that pruning isn't discipline. Those two things are different. Again, he says that the fruit the branch that is bearing fruit gets pruned. So I just want you to know, if you feel like you're getting pruned, it's not like God's going, man, your life is off. I need to start cutting away stuff. No, he's going, you are bearing fruit. I'm proud of you. I'm with you. It's all coming from me. And so let me help you bear more fruit. Now, a grapevine will never produce anywhere near its potential without being pruned. And as someone that doesn't understand pruning, we would look at the vine after the pruners went through and go, oh my gosh, you cut off so much. That can't be all needed. Like, look at all the waste on the ground. Like, look at all the loss. Like, why would you cut away that? Like, I needed that or they needed that. But to the pruner, he'd go, that was exactly what I needed. Some vineyards take 3 years to train a pruner on where to cut and when to cut and what angle to cut and all that. It's extremely precise. And a couple years ago, my daughter, I don't know if you guys have had experiences, but got a hold of some scissors and cut off a little bit of her hair. So I got like a picture of some of her hair. That's it. We found that. We're pretty discouraged by that. I couldn't find a picture of her actual hair, like to see it. And but anyways, that's it. But then I looked at some other pictures of other kids cutting their hair, and that was a rough day in that family. And then we got one more, and so yeah, he was doing that. But track with me. I think when we're thinking about pruning, I think we're thinking of that picture. Like God just like, you know, like just like cut, you know, and it's like, whoa, dude, you don't take that girl to a salon and go, can you fix it? It's like, no, she's just gonna have to go bald for a little bit. Like that's just, you know, and we're like, God, like be careful when you cut, like, and he's going, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. Every single cut is intentional. And track with me here. I want you to internalize this. If you feel like you're being pruned, the hand of the Father is never closer than when he's pruning you. He leans in, examines, and with his precise scissors, he cuts away everything unworthy of your life and unhelpful to your life. So that's it. It's just that's the way it goes. And so listen, if you're a follower of Jesus, and hard things are happening in your life, I can promise you it's not punishment. I can probably assume it's one of three things. Number one, maybe he is pruning you. Maybe he is just cutting away what wouldn't be helpful to you so you can grow more. Number two, maybe it is discipline. And he's going, man, I want to wake you up. I want to reroute your life to reorient yourself around me and my goodness. Or number three, maybe it's just because we live in a broken world that's tainted by sin and around hurtful people and there's disease and sickness and all that stuff. But if you want to bear more fruit, here it is, embrace his scissors. If you want to bear more fruit, see the purpose in his pruning. So that's the second way the Father's pruning. And the third way that we bear fruit is by the branches abiding. The branches abiding. So we spent the first part of the sermon talking about how Jesus is abiding in us, that crazy reality, that it's not just about us abiding in him, it's about him abiding in us. The true vine has attached himself to us. We're united with him. And I want you to hear this. That's passive abiding. We are just recipients of Jesus abiding in us and him grafting us into the vine. That's just passive. It's pure grace. But he also uses abide actively, as if there's something that he's also inviting us into joining him as he abides in us. Like there's something that we get to play in with this too. And so the last thing I want to do with our time together this morning is to help us understand what it means for us to abide in Jesus. So simply put, the word abide means to stay or to remain. So we never use the word abide. Like, hey, going on vacation, where are you abiding? No, we're like, where are you staying? You know, I'm staying at the hotel. You know, okay, great. So just think of the word stay. How many dog owners do we have? Dog owners, I know you're proud about it, right? How could you not? And I love seeing like, you know, a married, you know, couple or something, and like it's like the dog as the wallpaper on the phone. You know, I'm like, that's great. That was us for a while until we had kids. I haven't been on our screensaver in years. I'm just gonna be honest about that. A little insecure, but anyways, but the kids are, and our dog was. So, anyways, one of the worst words in a dog's, you know, internal vocabulary that they can hear is stay, okay? I want a treat, stay, like this whole thing. But it's stay. Now, we have a mini golden doodle. His name's Legend. He truly is a legend. Love him to death. And for some reason, he is convinced that anytime we go that he's invited. And I'm like, what made you think that? We don't take you anywhere. What made you think that, every time, relentlessly, he hears the King's jingle, and he's by the door, he's pacing his feet, and I'm like, dude, you're not coming. It's not it, He's just looking at me, and I'm like, no. And what do I say? Stay, close the door, let's go. And he just looks at you with the saddest, cutest eyes, And Kristen fell for it the other day. She brought him. Guess what he did in the van? He puked. He puked in the van. He gets car sick. So that dude's gonna be staying for a while, okay? That's just it. It's just it. So, bad word for dogs, stay, right? It's their 4-letter word. And so anyways, but the idea of staying in that sense is restrictive, right? It's restrictive. Stay back. He wants to go do something, but he can't. And so it's like, dude, sorry, buddy, you got to stay while we go do something fun. That's the idea of stay in that scenario. But this idea of abiding that Jesus is using flips it on its head. So listen to me. Abiding, it's like an invitation to settle into where you're at. It's an invitation to settle into where you're at, knowing you've got everything you could want or need. That's abiding. For instance, after saying abide in me 4 different times, Jesus changes that language in verse 9 and says, abide in my love, okay? So he's giving some language and expanding this idea, abide in my love. Stay right here in the center of my love. Don't go looking for other loves. They'll let you down. And so he's saying, don't worry, or don't try to connect to any other vine. They won't bring life. Jesus is inviting us to abide, to finally breathe, to retire from all the vanity of all our efforts, to stop working to be loved, to stop worrying about being loved, and just stay there. Just rest in it. Just enjoy it. You don't have to keep busy to keep his love. You don't have to keep up quotas to keep his love. We talk a lot about going in the Christian life, right? Go to your neighbors, go to the next generation, go to new cities, go to the nations, whatever, go. And that's the Great Commission, right? Go. But the Great Command is to stay in his love, to be loved by God, to love God. So he's saying, hey, yeah, I want you to go in that regard. But in terms of abiding, I want you to stay, to remain, to not wander off, daydreaming about what a different vine could give you. I know pruning can be uncomfortable. I know the world is shouting an invitation from a million different vines. I know your old life before Jesus was so much easier than your new life in him, but stay, remain, abide. There's nothing out there for you. And so when we're insecure about being loved, what do? We search for it, for validation or meaning or whatever it is. And, maybe it's a significant other. Do you love me? Do you care about me? Do you want to be with me? Maybe it's social media, and we're thinking about, will they like my posts? Will they engage with what I'm doing, whatever it is? Maybe it's religious activity, doing church stuff. I messed up. I didn't do this right, and so I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna go to this. I'm gonna attend this thing, and then I can be okay and sure that God loves me. And God's going, what do you mean? That's not it. All of those instances, what are they? They're temptations to go. Invitations to jet out the door, to try and get something out of another vine that it ultimately can't give you. And Jesus says, abide in me, abide in my love, stay in it. It'll never waver, it'll never falter, it'll never increase or decrease. Friends, you are loved infinitely, meaning there's no ever moment of your life where he'll love you more. He loves you infinitely. And also he loves you unconditionally, meaning there's never a moment or thing you could do that would make him love you any less. You just are loved infinitely. That's his love. And he's saying, just stay in that. You don't have to look out there or anything. And so I don't have a good definition for abide. I wish I did. I could give you lots of ways to abide or what it might look like or whatever, but all I know for sure is Jesus is saying to stay, to remain in his love, while simultaneously promising that he'll remain in us. That even if you try to go somewhere, he's with you. And so let me just tell you this. As Christians, our confidence isn't in our ability to abide in Jesus, remain in him, but in his promise to remain in us and abide in us. So as he does, as he abides in us, as he connects us to him, fruit is born, The Father prunes, more fruit is born, and we become more like Jesus. Amen? So we get to take communion this morning, and I'm super excited for it because it's a great family meal that we get to do about every 2 weeks as a church. And so when Jesus is, and I was thinking about kind of the vine and grapes and all this, and I'm going, man, in order to make wine, so Jesus is, the first kind of Last Supper, whatever, the institution of this, Jesus is around the table with his disciples, and he grabs some wine, he goes, hey, this represents my blood shed for you. And it's wine, right? And we're drinking some juice, but what has to happen to make juice? The vine's got to get cut. Right, and the grapes have to get pressed into making that wine or making that juice. And Jesus is going, hey, I'm the vine. I got cut, I got pressed, I got beaten so that I could press into this wine. Like this is a visible showing of me getting pressed and cut for you so that you can enjoy this. So even as you take the juice, to think about that, the process of how it got there. And I think bread is the same way. Bread's got to be pressed with the wheat into the flour or whatever. And it's like, but that's what God did for us in order to take this great meal. So he says, hey, the juice and the bread are representations of me. My body had to get broken for you to make you whole. My blood had to be shed to make you clean. And so this is a meal for the believer, for the people in the room that have been connected to Jesus, brought into his family forever by faith and faith alone. So I'd love to invite you into that and to celebrate. I just want to say the Bible kind of talks about communion in an introspective sense. So it's not somber. I think it's joyful and celebratory, but it's also because we're remembering what Jesus did for us and we're going, wow, you're so good. But it's also introspective, meaning you're thinking about your life in this moment. And so just even as people start, like, you're waiting in line or you're waiting to get up and you're thinking, God, have I been trying my best? Have I been trying to connect to other vines? Like, seriously, whatever it is, have I been trying to do that? And that you would know as you come up and take communion of all those things, God, help me. I don't want any of that. You're the true vine. And as you take communion, you remember freshly, oh God, thanks for breaking your body and shedding your blood for me. You've connected me to the one true vine, and there's grace for all the other vines I've tried to connect to. So enjoy that as a meal. For practical instruction, as I'll pray, we'll come up here, be like row by row, just as it goes, pretty normal. You'll go up, someone will hand you a piece of bread and say, this is his body broken for you, and then you can dip it into the juice. And they'll say, this is his blood shed for you, and you can take it. And so that's just, and then you just walk and find your spot. So just make sure we're on the same page there. Again, this is a meal for the believer. So if you haven't believed in Jesus, I just ask you to not partake in this meal. It's just crackers and juice. It wouldn't, it's not like you're missing out on anything big. But also to say, like, what are you doing? Like, there's no better news that you could ever hear than Jesus. Like, come to him today. Broken, weary, whatever. Like, come. And he wants to attach you to his vine. And maybe this is your first meal you get to experience with us. Or if not, I want you just to think and reflect. Why not? Why wouldn't I want to be a part of this great vine? So let's pray.